color. Everybody looks so happy. Okay, it is 12 noon, Tuesday, October 19th. This is Historic Preservation Board meeting. Calling the meeting to order. It's good to see all your smiling faces out there. Citizens may speak on action items listed on the agenda. A request to speak card should be completed and returned to the city clerk or board secretary prior to the board reaching this section of the agenda. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise required by law. Comments related to public hearings, if any, will be heard when the specific hearing is called. Item A, receive report, hold a discussion, and take action on the October 5th, 2021 meeting minutes. Any comments? Questions? Can I have a motion to accept them?
I move to accept the meeting minutes from October 5th, 2021.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the minutes are accepted as written. Item B, receive report, hold a discussion, and make a recommendation on a request to paint the facade and trim of the structure located at 316 West Chestnut Street. Case number 2021-050H. Mr. Medina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon. This is the subject property here outlined in blue. For reference, this is directly south of us, south of City Hall. That's Rusk running north to south and West Chestnut running east to west. Here's the subject property here. The signage has since changed, but this was the old overhead door, as you can see. The applicant's requesting to utilize Blue Kiss and Egyptian blue on the facade. Blue Kiss is a white color that will be used on most of the facade, as well as Egyptian blue. The applicant's wishing to utilize it on this trim. This picture is kind of all one shade, but it's actually a green. The applicant's requesting to use Egyptian blue on that metal trim. I did have a phone call with the applicant this morning. They are open to the idea of utilizing a gray if the blue is not acceptable. I went ahead and printed out our color chips as well, just in case the applicant would like to look through that and discuss any other alternatives. With that, though, city staff is recommending approval of the requested color choices as presented, which is Blue Kiss. Again, it's called Blue Kiss, but it's really like a cream or a white, and Egyptian blue for the metal trim. I'm present for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Is the Egyptian blue on the east side as well? Down the east side of the building?
Yes. Yes, my understanding of reading the application was all that trim would be Egyptian blue.
Okay.
Any other questions? Can I have a motion?
I move to recommend approval of the use of Blue Kiss
7004-11, and Egyptian blue 4011-7 on the facade and trim at 316 West Chestnut Street, subject to the finish being matte or semi-gloss.
Can I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? There being none, then the proposal is accepted and they can move forward. Item C, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to modify the facade at 430 West Chestnut Street, case number 2021-58H. Mr. Medina.
Thank you. And just a note on the last item, I forgot to mention, all the recommendations for the colors today will be placed on the November 1st City Council meeting for final action, just so that way that's clear as our timeline going forward. So this is subject property here. It's on the corner of West Chestnut and South Fannin Avenue, outlined in yellow. This is the old City Hall annex. Here's the front facade of the building. And this is on the east side of the property. A lot of the facade modifications and changes in our assessment are minor in nature. The most significant thing that is on the application, as you'll see, is going to be the addition of a door on this wall here, as well as closing up what used to be a drive-through service drawer, basically so you can put your money in or put your card in and get your receipt, when that was the utility billing office, as well as the applicants wishing to put in a 5-foot tall, black powder coated steel fencing, which is kind of like a picket fence around to create a patio, so that way clientele can go and enjoy the weather outside. Other than that, all the other changes are going to be replacing what's already there or repairing what's there, caulking the windows, things of that sort. The proposed door will also match the existing doors on the building that's on the primary front entrance. It's difficult to see, but they're metal doors, aluminum with glass. So to recap, this application is to do some exterior modifications to the subject property. The next item is going to be for the color. Staff recommends approval, and I'm present for any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Bill, you say this does include the painting or does not?
It does not. The next item will be item 2D, as in dog, and that item is going to be for the request to make a recommendation on the paint color.
Are there any questions about the changes that are proposed? Can I have a motion?
I move to approve the proposed exterior alterations at 430 West Chestnut Street with the condition that all future signage meet City of Denison sign ordinance standards and the City Council approves the proposed sign color scheme.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, item D, receive a report, hold a discussion, and make a recommendation on a request to paint the facade at 430 West Chestnut Street, case number 2021-58H. Mr. Medina.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
As we just saw, here's the subject property on Fannin and Chestnut. Facade of the building. Now, you do have a clearer version of this in your packet. It didn't really transfer over well. The text is a little hard to read on your screen here. But the applicant is proposing to utilize Egyptian blue, Fiesta blue, Sea Serenade, Golden Spell, which is not on the list of historic preservation for National Trust, or Veranda Ivory. Those other colors are included on that list. Here's the proposed sign scheme. So as you can see, the facade of the building and the sign will match closely together. And here are the proposed colors that the applicant's wishing to pursue: Egyptian blue, Fiesta blue, Sea Serenade, Veranda Ivory, and Golden Spell. Again, all the colors are on the National Trust for Historic Preservation except for Golden Spell. That being said, I did speak with the applicant yesterday and this morning. She's open to the utilization of Sunday brunch as an alternative to Golden Spell on the signage. Since it's used to such a small percentage and really just outlines some lettering, let me go back here. We think that would be appropriate, either of those colors. Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth a lot here. And then Salty Dog as an alternative trim color, which is not on the list, but it's similar to what the applicant was pursuing. I also did have a conversation this morning with the applicant, kind of explaining the events of City Council last night, explaining how, staff kind of got the understanding that City Council may not be in favor of some of these brighter colors on the facade. That being said, she still would like to move forward with the proposed colors. However, in the future, she would be open to discussion of maybe changing that at the council level if it got that far. So I'm present for any questions you may have, and staff recommends approval.
Are you saying she is open to discussion on the colors of the building, or no?
Yes, sir. That's correct. That was my understanding of our phone call, yes.
Okay, is she here?
I have not met her.
Good morning. Anybody have any questions?
So, Mr. Medina, Golden Spell is in the color deck and, or not? The second one is, right?
Golden Spell is not on the list.
And then the
Sunday-
second one, Sunday Brunch, right, is on the list.
Yes, and that was my recommendation to her. I feel like they were pretty close. However, she would like to move forward with Golden Spell. It's kind of a branding thing. She wants to be consistent. So I figured I would at least offer that option as a potential alternative I found in our palette.
That's kind of a minor thing on the whole scheme of things. Would you like to address the board, ma'am? Come on up.
Good afternoon. I'm Amy Jordan, owner of Bella Fontana. The reason I would like to stick with the original gold color is we are at 420 West Main right now, where we've been for 3.5 years with that logo. And we want to be very cautious in this move that it doesn't look like a new owner. Our company has been through several owners as we've moved from Sherman to Denison to make this our forever home. And I would really like to keep with the original color scheme so that it looks like the same company, just changing locations. So I know it seems like a minor change, but to change a logo and a brand that has been in the city for 3.5 years is a concern. When you start making little changes, people do notice those things. As far as the color of the building, I know that it is a brighter color, but we chose this color because there are other buildings on Main Street painted Egyptian blue. There's one on Main Street right here in the 300 block or 400 block. There's one at the end of a Main Street that we saw and really liked the color. We are a day spa, and so and our name is a beautiful fountain. That's what Bella Fontana stands for. So the idea was to go with a water theme. We're trying to bring some life to this corner of Chestnut. If you've looked around, this is I believe, an area of downtown that's picking up. And so this building, in its current condition, seems a little like a 1970s Adobe building. And we really wanted to go away from that and give it some individuality and a unique look that gives it some character and personality and really helps that building kind of become beautiful. And in our opinion right now, it's kind of just bland. So we definitely want it to not look that way. So that's all.
Would you be open to changing the color on the majority of the building?
We really would like a dark blue. We've looked through the color palette a lot, and that was the only blue we could find. I'm definitely open. I picked Salty Dog as the alternative because it is the color of the popcorn store that was just painted. And so I thought, well, that was approved. So, and it's not on the preservation list, but I found that it was in a past agenda, and I saw that building, and so that was the only reason we threw that. We really would like a dark navy blue. We just couldn't find one on the list, and so that's why we picked the one that was pre-approved.
Would you be amenable to using a lighter shade of blue on the exterior of the building?
The reason, let me tell you why we want to use a dark color. Not to get into the whole roof of the building, but the roof of the building has that metal fencing around it. If you could go to that picture for me. That metal right there is screwed and anchored into the walls. Charlie could probably tell you a little bit about that too. But you see the dark staining that's running down the building in this very picture? That's happening because of the tar and the roof material that keeps having to be put on that roof to patch it because it leaks actively because of that metal screening. But the metal screening is required by city code. It can't be taken down. And so over the years, it just keeps getting patched and patched with tar to fill in the leaking and the gaps that's being caused by where that's anchored into the sidewalls. And so that tar is what's causing those strains to come down on the side of the building. And so the only thing I can think of is to paint it a dark color so that my building won't always have black stripes running down it. Because I've talked with several roofers and they've all said that there is no solution other than to keep patching or to remove the metal. And I have been told I can't remove the metal because of city code. So I'm sort of at a forever leaking building. So anyways, that's the reasoning for the darker color.
Okay, appreciate that, thank you. I think in light of what's happened recently with the Egyptian blue at a council meeting last night, I think it might be best to table this for now.
Okay.
And have you take that up with the council?
Okay.
You think that's appropriate, Mr. Medina?
I believe so. Just know, to move forward to city council, this body wouldn't table it. If we table it, that means the applicant comes back before this body. So some sort of recommendation to council, and then we can take our next steps.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And we will table this, and it'll be the action you outlined will be taken. I appreciate you being here in Denison, and I hope that will be your, forever home for your business. And we'll get over this. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, move on to item E. Receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the
Chair
request.
Mason, we need to take action on that. We need a motion
Oh, okay.
and to, yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
thank you.
So
Can I-
if we motion to table it, then it will need to come back to historic preservation.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Can I have a motion?
Do we, how
Do
do
I
we
make
get
the
it? I'm
motion?
confused about how it will go to city council first, then. What do we need to do?
Bill, will I make the motion to table it?
Can the chair motion? I'm not sure.
It's got to be one of you.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the regular members.
And I'm willing to do that.
Mhm.
Please do.
But will city council consider it before it comes back to us? That's the question.
City council will make final action and determination when they get it.
After we,
Yes, after today's action, city council will take final action.
okay.
So this body will be making a recommendation to city council.
So tabling it, in
Good
fact,
thing.
does not move it on to city council.
Correct.
We essentially come back the next meeting with the same situation presented to us, correct?
That's correct. Unless the applicant calls me up and gives me alternative colors, then we can get those back in front of historic preservation.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Am I making, so, but we want city council to make a recommendation.
But they won't do that, Jennifer, until
Until we-
something comes from
until we-
us, other than it being tabled.
So I think the thought was that if you guys table it, it would give her some opportunity and us some opportunity to get some more feedback for her. And then she would come back here at her choice. If we learn that, and this is all kind of the first time for the council approval, so if we learn that that's going to be something that they're just not going to support, one of two things can happen. You guys can approve it. We can wait till November 1st and then see what they do. From what we've learned last night, it's probably not going to make approval. which means they'll have to come back here with a new color and go through it all over again. If you table it, it gives us a chance to get her a little bit better feedback, and then she can make another decision. If she still wants to, it'll come back to you guys. You can do what you need to do, and we can go forward. It just gives a little opportunity for a little more conversation. This just happened last night, so we would like a little more opportunity to clarify it for her.
Okay, great, thank you, Mr. Lloyd.
Thank
And I think
you.
that's our issue, is what occurred last night. So, George, I support.
Okay, so I make a motion to table the approval of the proposed color scheme on the facade of 430 West Chestnut Street, to give both the owner and the city more time to discuss options.
Can I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Now, item E. Receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to modify the facade at 318 West Main Street. Case number 2021-63H.
Thank you. Let me get my paper in order. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay. So here's the subject property on the 300 block of West Main Street, directly adjacent to the park. Whoa. The applicant's requesting to remove this front false facade right behind the book rack, basically that white area. Here are some pictures of what the building should look like underneath. You see you have transom windows towards the middle of the structure above the bottom half. And here's an even older photo, which is pretty cool here. So hopefully all those transom windows, or if not the windows, the openings are still in place. The applicant's working with Mr. Tony Kai to go ahead and get this facade, that white strip there, have that taken off, and then they're gonna come back with a facade plan of how they want to install the windows, the types of trim and framing and so on. So first step is really just taking that off and understanding what the property owner is dealing with underneath. And the applicant couldn't make it today, but Mr. Tony Kai is here if you have questions as well. And with that, you have a recommendation of approval and present for any questions.
Any questions? There being none, can I have a motion?
I move to recommend approval of the repainting 318 West Main Street at 6006-4A LaFonda Wild West Green.
That's second.
That's a second.
This is, that's the,
Oh, wait, what did I?
we are on item 2D. So right now, this item is for the facade removal. The next item, 2F as in Frank, is for the paint.
Oh, I'm ahead of myself, sorry. New girl.
You're forgiven.
I move to approve the removal of the facade cover at 318 West Main Street.
Can I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Okay, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to modify the facade at, Receive a report, hold a discussion, and make a recommendation on a request to paint the facade at 318 West Main Street, case number 2021-63H. Mr. Medina.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
As noted previously, this is the subject property outlined in yellow on West Main Street. It's the book rack. So, speaking with the applicant and Mr. Tony Kai, we thought it'd be best to try and get approval for the paint color. That process started. Now that it has to go to City Council, if we can get that ball rolling a little bit sooner, it could save the applicant some time. And they're simply wishing to go ahead and repaint it, whatever underneath, after they do masonry repairs or trim and all that's approved. When the project's near complete, they're going to want to come back and paint everything what is already existing today. And the closest match that the applicant could find is going to be Cool Moss. The reason you see two different names here is the applicant submitted the older name of the color, so I just included both so there was no confusion. We recommend approval of the use of Cool Moss and alternative smoked olive, mountain olive. All three of these colors are on our list of National Trust for Historic Preservation. We all think they're pretty close to what's existing. And again, I'm present for any questions. Staff recommends approval, and Mr. Tony Kai is here as well.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of the repainting 318 West Main Street with cool moss.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Wait a minute, is that the color we're wanting?
Isn't that the one?
Isn't
recommended?
La Fonda Wild West Green?
Yes. Cool moss is the same. color.
Okay. All right, the motion reads Wild West Green.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Thank you. All right. Moving right along. Item G, receive a report, hold a discussion, and make a recommendation on a request to paint the facade at 131 West Woodard Street, case number 2021-64H. Mr. Medina.
Thank you. So this item here is also has a companion item. This first item is to paint the structure. The very next item is going to be for additional facade modifications. So this is subject property here, outlined in yellow. That's Austin Avenue running north to south and West Woodard running east to west. It's the Texoma cash register. So as you're aware, the city council amended the ordinance to require that they will take final action and final approval on all paint colors after this body makes a recommendation. Before that ordinance was adopted, one of the very last buildings to get approved by this body for paint was the Texoma cash register. So just to clarify, this property already has entitlement and approval to use Egyptian blue on the facade. That is already approved. What they're asking for now is to utilize gray brook, as you see here. This was submitted by the applicant. They want to put gray kind of on the front facade. And the reason for that, and we'll get into this more detail on the next item, is, I'm coming back. Let me just give you an example here. When they were doing facade modifications, they realized that the front of the building was in worse shape than they anticipated. A lot of the structural integrity of the front facade was in poor shape, and so they had to do some significant changes to just save the building and do a lot of internal steel repairs and framing repairs. That being said, they're going to have to, in the next item, they're going to request to put stucco where you see this black and these wooden trims and really kind of stabilize the building and seal it up. So on that stucco, assuming it's approved, they are going to want, or they are requested to utilize this color here, gray brook. So we recommend approval of the color, of the use of gray brook, and I'm present for any questions you might have.
Is Red Brook an approved color?
Yes, sir, it is on the list.
This goes on to the city council, we're going to have the same issue.
After only having last night meeting in those two cases, it's difficult to say if council will table it or deny it. I don't think I have enough experience yet to kind of gauge their approach right now. We do know that some of these brighter colors like the blues and the bright greens and yellows and reds, they're not in favor of so far. Is that a fair assessment?
With all due respect, Mr. Medina, it seems like these motions are in the reverse order. I mean, it seems to me that the first item is to approve the facade alterations, and then you approve what color they're going to be painted. I mean, maybe I'm just nitpicking, but
Yes, ma'am, I understand, and we'll make sure.
And in fact, the facade alterations could be approved absent approving the colors.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll make sure to pay closer attention to the agenda order next
No, no,
time
no, I'm
before
just-
it's pushed
I'm
out.
just wondering if in fact it is sort of cart before the horse.
Yes, ma'am, I agree. I think that's a fair assessment, and there are things that I can do at the staff level to make sure that what you're explaining is organized better at the next meeting.
Should
mean any
Table.
offense at all. Well, I don't think we have any objection to improving the facade.
No, I'm just wondering if we should table the painting at this point.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So did I understand you correctly, Mr. Medina? Did you say that this was previously approved?
Yes,
was.
we did it. And there was
Yes.
a question about how bright the color was because I raised it.
Yes.
Is that in the minutes? Just asking.
Do you want that other motion about the facade?
Should we go ahead
Can we
and,
go ahead and vote on
Fanchen, are we able to do that? If you want to act on, come back.
well, let's do that.
So let's do that. Do they need to take any action? Do you want me just to jump over? Okay, so let's do that. So let's go ahead and I'll give my presentation on 2H. We'll put a pin in 2G and come right back to it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So this is item 2H. Receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to modify the facade at 131 West Woodard Street, case number 2021-64H. Here's the subject property on Austin and West Woodard. And here is the front facade of the Texoma cash register. As I mentioned, while they were working on this building, they had, if you recall, actually, on September 7th, the Historic Preservation Board approved the repainting of this building with Egyptian blue, as well as the approval of several facade modifications to include a door at the rear, this window that's right here, as well as peeling off the previous front facade. While that front facade came off, the underlying features were in pretty bad shape, and so now the applicant's needing to go ahead and put stucco right here to kind of close this gap and seal it off from the elements and keep the project moving. So this was for the color as well, just as reference. That gives you an idea of where they're proposing to stucco the building. And city staff recommends approval of the use of stucco to fill in the large openings located on the front facade.
Any questions, discussion? Then I have a motion.
I move to approve the proposed facade alterations of 131 West Woodard Street.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Now, back to the previous one. Receive report, hold a discussion, and make a recommendation on a request to paint the facade at 131 West Woodard Street, case number 2021-64H.
All right. So now that we have the facade work approved, the applicant's requesting to receive a recommendation of approval to utilize gray brook, that's the color, over the newly installed stucco when that occurs. So this is gray brook here. It's kind of like a bluish gray. And as we discussed, this is where the applicant's wishing to utilize the stucco and therefore the new paint color.
Questions? Mr. Medina, if we approve this and it goes on to city council, is there a chance it's not going to be approved by them?
Yes, sir. I believe there is.
Okay. Should we table this and allow the owner to have more discussion with you?
Yes, we're always willing to do that and hold those meetings with the applicants.
Okay. Is it all right with you?
So previously, we had approved two other colors, the Egyptian blue and the white sash on the trim, correct? Those colors have already been approved.
Yeah.
If I use one of those two colors instead of this new color, can we not have to deal with any of the rest of that and approve those? Because those two colors have already been approved. I could use either one of those instead of having to approve this third color. That's fine. I mean, I thought it would look better if we had a third color.
Right. So I'd have to go back and look at the meeting minutes, but I think you're right when you say that white sash was approved for the trim. I don't think that using white sash would, in this way where you're proposing instead of gray brook, would be deemed trim.
We could carry the current Egyptian
Yes, I would agree that based on what was approved previously, the use of Egyptian blue, you could just go ahead and put blue here. Independent of any action today, because you already have approval for that on the building.
Would that be acceptable, or would you prefer to have the two different colors?
I really can't say. I'm afraid that if we go ahead and approve this, when it gets to town council, it'll be stricken down. So,
Did they look at this last time?
It was on September 7th.
But I
yeah.
mean, was it this rendering? Did they see the trim in Egyptian blue and approve it at that, with this visual? Do you remember?
Not with this visual. I'd have to go back and look at the minutes. I don't remember.
So that would be the only question. If you approve something with a visual, thinking it was gonna be that much Egyptian blue, and then we put more Egyptian blue on it, that's gonna change it.
The
I think
original
for-
was to do the entire front.
Was
in
it?
Egyptian blue, but we didn't have the ability to do this rendering, because we didn't know what was underneath the facade.
So what we're trying to help you with is just give you some feedback from what happened at council last night. We don't know. They may approve this fine. Nobody knows until you take it there. If you want to take it with these colors, then I think it would be fair to approve it, and if he wants to do that, and let council, but you're going to have to wait till November 1st to find out if this gets approved or not before you can move forward with anything.
the only downside of that for the owner of the building is that there may be a delay in getting the building painted
Correct.
if the council
So
decides
if
to
they
strike it down.
table it, and we can kind of try to get you some feedback on this, it might help the process move a little quicker. That's really all we're trying to do, is respect your time.
Last meeting we had, a month ago, y'all approved doing the entire building in the Egyptian blue and doing this trim in white, so I don't see that there would be any problem with just continuing to do it all. Not do this gray, just do it all in blue, because that was already approved at the last meeting.
So if that's the case, then maybe the appropriate action would be to table this. If he's already received approval for the whole building, he doesn't need to be here. He's already received it, So maybe you guys might table it, and we'll check and look back and see if that was the case. Would that be okay?
That'd be fine.
That'd be fine. That might be a better
They
solution.
have a lot of work to do before they get to paint anyway, with the approval of the
Exactly.
facade repair and modification. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got a lot of structural steel that has to be replaced along that ledge, and a lot of brickwork to correct.
All right, so the
It's
motion,
unstable at the moment.
We're just trying to respect your time as much as we can. This is kind of a new process, so we're trying to work through it. I think appropriate would be to table it, and then we'll look back for him. And if he's received approval already, the item will just be removed. He doesn't need to come
now,
back.
what are we going to table? The gray paint?
The gray paint,
Can I have?
not the facade improvement, just the gray.
Any more questions or discussion?
No, I think inevitably it's going back to council, so I think we table it.
All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to table it.
I move to table the approval of the use of Gray Brook 5001-I13, should put on my glasses, 1B, sorry, on the facade of 131 West Woodard Street. Period, because we've already approved this stucco.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? There being none, then the motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. And Mr. Ward. Item I, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the proposed sculpture to be placed in the city right-of-way within a 100 block of East Main Street. Mr. Medina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for the minutes, Mr. Bob Alexander has recused himself. So here's the area with this arrow here on East Main, just west of the railroad tracks, south of the depot. Here's the proposed sculpture. City is requesting approval to install this sculpture. I believe it's called All Aboard, which depicts a train conductor and a woman and child rushing towards the train, I guess assuming to catch it before it leaves them behind. Here's another angle of the proposed sculpture. And then 2 close-ups or clearer images. And then just for reference, here's the approximate placement in front of the depot where these sculptures will be placed. So city staff recommends approval, and we're present for any questions.
I don't know how anybody could turn it down. Any comments from anyone?
It's a lovely sculpture.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the art going in down there.
I appreciate, is the owner of the depot here? No? It's too bad, because I really appreciate what he's doing down there, and this is just outstanding. So, can I have a motion?
I move to approve the installation of the proposed olive board sculpture as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the motion is carried. Thank you. Where did Mr. Alexander go? Yeah, please. Thank you.
Mr. Medina, where's the funding going to come from for the sculpture? The building owner?
I'm
I
not
mean,
sure
I
exactly.
don't see that there are any financial considerations for us. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I haven't been briefed on the financial tool of it.
So we're just approving the sculpture in general, but we don't know yet who's going to pay for it.
And the location, that's correct. I believe this was a project that Councilman Hander had been working on, so I to be honest, I wouldn't want to speculate on where the funding is coming from. So for staff updates, I appreciate everyone's help today on today's agenda. I know it was a little bit tricky, and I appreciate helping us together get through that. Just as another update, City Council approved the repainting of 314 West Main. It looks great. That sailed very smoothly. On the flip side, it was 531 West Crawford was tabled. I know some of you might know that already, but just to be clear, 531 was tabled by council last night, so they can kind of take a look at the structure. 531 was already painted by the time it got to city council, so they went to go look at it and see if it's appropriate for the district, and on the first, they should either approve or deny that paint color. So
I do
keep
have
you
a
updated.
question about that. We approved that either in the last meeting or the one before, and I don't think that the policy was in place at that time for the city council to approve on motions that are made here with the Preservation Board.
So that ordinance was adopted before that meeting. I don't remember the day. It was the beginning of October, I think, or end of September.
All right, well, I was not aware of that.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, and I'll do a better job as well of informing you when council makes ordinance amendments that involve downtown. But I do assure all of you as well that I did inform the applicant pretty clearly that this body would be making a recommendation on the color and council would be taking final action at last night's meeting. We've documented all of that, so they were aware that they weren't supposed to paint the building until it's approved, and we'll see what council does at their next meeting. And definitely take that feedback because that's going to affect our recommendations going forward.
More to come, I'm sure. Thank you. Item 3, staff updates. I may receive a report and hold a discussion regarding staff updates.
Everything I just said as my staff update.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Please.
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.